Collective consciousness, also known, but probably coined by me, as spiritual intuition. And so what is this? Now, this is the session. We're 4 days in. We're going to go quite deep, okay? And there may be some things that I say that may be challenging to the way that you view the world. If I haven't done that already, oh dear. So yes, and it's when some people start calling this kind of stuff pseudoscience. So let's just like suspend disbelief, just be curious, see what you think. And I like to live in the mystery. So here's the thing. I can teach this stuff with the full understanding that I don't even think I'm close to what this is. And I think if somebody can just be honest and go, well, this is great, but is it what it is? Is it, are we there yet? Because if we think we have the answers, then we stop asking questions and we stop becoming curious. So I would just say, let's go on a journey of kind of discovery with this to sort of see where things lie. And if something feels intuitively like a hit, go with it. And if it doesn't, then that's absolutely fine as well. So there is a thing called the law of resonance. Now we kind of understand that there is more space in a wall than there is matter, which is slightly concerning, especially when you're sitting in a room with a roof. But the idea of this is that what makes things have a perception of being solid, and maybe even a feel of being solid, is a frequency of vibration. Now, we were talking about this yesterday when I was singing to you with my do re mi fa sol la ti do. So we were talking about raising frequency or expanding frequency. And so if everything that is solid is actually made of a frequency of vibration, then everything is moving, everything is alive, everything is probably singing, who knows, but everything is a frequency of vibration. So therefore everything could be sound. So if I had a guitar, and I had 2 guitars, a bit greedy like that, and I had one on one side of the room and I strummed it, and then a guitar on the other side of the room that was tuned differently that I didn't touch. The resonance of the second guitar tuned differently would match the guitar of the guitar that I strummed on the other side of the room. Strummed, is that a word? Actually, I've asked Deanna before I started to get into this. So knowing that means that everything vibrates and connects on a certain frequency. So for example, scientists, this is the story of the 100 monkeys, and you may have heard of it, so I'm going to give you the shortened abridged version. If you haven't, it's all over online, so you can just put 100 monkeys and this story will come up. So it was a bunch of scientists that were looking at monkeys on islands in Japan, and there were split up islands in Japan, and they were watching this particular type of monkey. And I think the scientists got a little bit bored, so they were tossing them sweet potatoes to eat. Now, one of the sweet potatoes fell into a puddle of water, and the monkey kind of went, okay, this is cool because it cleans off the sand that the sweet potatoes were falling into. So this monkey started cleaning potatoes, okay? And over a period of time, lots of other monkeys started cleaning potatoes as well because they'd witnessed that one monkey cleaning potatoes. Lovely. Then they don't know what the tipping point was, so they're guessing it was 100 monkeys. And suddenly all of the monkeys on the island started washing potatoes, like a shift of consciousness had happened. Now that's interesting, but lots of monkeys on the neighbouring islands also started washing potatoes when they'd never witnessed it. Monkeys not that different to humans. The steam train was invented by more than one person, as was the electric light bulb. And I don't mean kind of at some point in time, I'm meaning in the same week. That there can suddenly be a shift of consciousness where people have the same idea at the same time. So if you look at any of our movements that have kind of erupted, it's almost like Extinction Rebellion or Black Lives Matter or the Me Too movement. So there may have been a catalytic point, but was there already a surgence towards that catalytic point of collective consciousness? Now it gets a little scary, because when you think about that level of collective consciousness, when you're targeting particular things, say for example on social media, if you're being targeted by putting yourself in an echo chamber of like-minded thinkers, even if you weren't completely on par with everybody else, you would start to become connected to that consciousness. And I think that we're seeing that when we talk about COVID as well, the fear of COVID, the fact that more people have died of malaria, and yet I don't see people running around kind of like worrying about finding a cure for malaria. That's been around a hell of a long time. And we could get political, and I could tell you why I think that is, but that's not what we're doing. Move away from the argument. And this is the crux of one of the greatest reasons why I teach this, is because when you trust yourself, you can also see when collective consciousness is happening and you're getting swept away by something like a fear that you don't believe in. For example, crime rates went down, the fear of crime went up. So our thoughts can be influenced by what is a collective kind of thought, a collective feeling, because we are all linked as one. We all share a similar consciousness. So we are television sets, and there is a signal that comes to this television set, but that signal can also have influence. So one of the things I tried when I had a radio show on LBC, we tried this as an experiment. And one Friday evening, I asked all of my 97,000 listeners plus to concentrate that London was going to have the best day of traffic. The best day next Friday. It was going to be amazing. No stoppages on the tube, no delays on the road, no buses falling over, nothing. Going to be amazing. So we didn't tell the traffic and travel person, but we asked them. And at the end of the day, they said, was there anything unusual about the traffic and travel today in London? And she said, no, nothing unusual at all. She said, in fact, it was pretty boring. It was one of the lightest news stories ever for traffic and travel. There was hardly ever, she said, even the bits of the road that normally get blocked, that every single time I'm saying, oh, be careful of the North Circular, be careful of the, it's like, she said, none of it was blocked. None of the usual traffic hotspots were blocked. Interesting, huh? So then this makes me think, if we're part of a collective consciousness, what else could we do collectively that could really change the world? So the thing about the collective consciousness is I look at it as a kind of like so if we're all one, what is all of that? So I'm going to speak metaphorically again, because you may have your own views on this, but just imagine that at the point of the Big Bang, there was this huge mirror. And I like to think of it as a circle mirror, like it was a big round mirror. And this mirror thought, I wonder if I could experience myself. But in order to experience what you are, you have to experience what you're not in order to get self-understanding. So this is why white people go to, places of homes of people of colour. That's the American version, but BAME, that's another version. There's all sorts of wrong ways of putting this, but they'll kind of like go to India to find themselves. How can you find yourself in India? It's because we want contrast. We want contrast because we can only understand who we are by being somewhere where we're not. So if you were in an all-white room and you had no experience of yourself, and there was nothing in the room, I kind of gently ushered a cat into the room, you might go, well, the cat's furry and I'm not, apart from my lockdown legs. You might put a baby in the room and you might get a sense of age. So imagine that this huge mirror had this crazy thought, how can I experience myself? And at that point, it broke. And the epicenter of the Big Bang was kind of like boom, 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 going out into different frequencies of sound. And if you imagine that that mirror has the reflective side, so it remembers, the reflective side remembers that it's all one, that we are all one. And that the dull side of the mirror goes, who do you think you are? So the dull side of the mirror is the ego, and the reflective side of the mirror is love, it's oneness, it's understanding that we are all one. So imagine if that piece of the mirror was in your heart, or they call it the God chip, don't they? So imagine if that was in your heart, and I talked about this light shade and how we try and fill it with stuff. So imagine that that was in your heart, and that on some days when your reflective side out, and some days when your dull side out. And that when we're dull side out, we feel empty. And that when we're reflective side out, we're reflecting back love, the love that we feel, the love that we see, and we feel that we are a part of something and connected. As Brené Brown says, we are hardwired for connection. And I believe that this is the root of it. because we are actually connected, and we feel a sense of grief and sadness and sometimes guilt in separation, in feeling that we're not one. So if you imagine that, you know, these layers of sound that came from this point of the Big Bang, that it starts to kind of go outwards, and then maybe it starts to implode on itself. And maybe the first layer of sound remembers that it's all one. And you might want to call it, I don't know, angelic realm. You know, you could, there's lots of hierarchical, fanciful things. And then you might call the next one ascended masters, or genius, ascended mistresses, actually. But ascended kind of wisdom. And then you might call the next one your dead friends and family, and then the next one you, and then the next one just some sludgy old shit. God knows what's there. Who knows? But that never turns around into seeing the light. And I don't know whether or not this is true. I like the idea of it, and it certainly makes me feel better. It makes me feel that my soul is immortal. It makes me feel that I am a spirit having a physical experience, and that feels good to me. So live in the mystery, play with that idea. Don't make any hard and fast rules about that being right or wrong. And I wouldn't want to interfere with anybody's religious feelings either, because the golden thread through all religions is love, and that's all I'm talking about. So I think that most religions are talking about that. So I wouldn't want to kind of get in the way of that. And most, you know, incredible heart-centered feeling and thinkers that we've had all connect with love. So I think that that's an important thing. So that's the grandiose bit. Let's bring it down. And by the way, if you can hear some crunching, my dog has decided to have breakfast at this moment in time, which is completely fine. As long as it's not annoying to you, I hope it's not. So how this kind of like comes down into the real physical hello, because we are, if we're spiritual beings here to have a physical experience, let's have the best one that we can. Let's have the most fun. Let's like do all of the things that you want to do with your physical body. That's a really great thing to do. Apart from maybe eating too many chips, that might not be so great. So here's the thing about the collective consciousness. When you are resonating at what I would call average human, which we have sort of said, imagine if the average human was like la, and imagine if you were la, you might spend all of your time going, I don't fit in, la, la, la. No, I can't sound human for the life of me. So it's a little bit like when you're in your state of average human, you can't feel what it is to be human. You can't feel the collective consciousness. You can't necessarily feel all of the connection. It's a little bit like putting your hand in water that's the same temperature as your hand. You can't feel it. So if you've, just this moment is bliss. Have you ever taken a mouthful of coffee that is the same temperature as your mouth? It's amazing. And did you know, here's a little fact, that a woman's milk, her nipples are so sensitive that the milk will actually change temperature to the temperature of the baby's mouth the minute the baby latches onto the breast. I just find all of this stuff really amazing. This goes in my somatic intuition folder. I love all of that. So if you can't feel it, you have to raise your vibration, your own vibration, to get to a place where it's obvious. Now, how on earth do we do that? Well, lucky for you, I've solved this for you. I have created a meditation. I shared this, I did this meditation live with my membership group. And so I decided to edit it and give it to you. And the place that you're going to find it is on beckywalsh.com. Go to the blog page, and the very top blog, it says intuition class. And this is what we're doing. And all the videos from this class are all in that blog, including this audio file. So it's an audio file, it's a black bar, it's got a play button. And weirdly, the meditation that I have recorded for you is exactly 11 minutes and 11 seconds. So it's 11:11. So I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so butterfly numbers. So that's there. So there's a meditation to help you expand your frequency. So let's talk about chakras a second, because as we're talking about our energetic self and expanding our frequency. So you are like a Russian doll. There is you, and then there is you, and all of these different energy centers, which is you. So you are like a Russian doll, a self within self within self within self. So your outer self has an aura to it. And it also has these energy centers. Now, weirdly, the bottom 3 energy centers sort of stop inside of your body and don't come out the other side. Or at least I can't see them coming out the other side. I can't feel them coming out the other side on anyone. But the top ones, so from the heart upwards, go right the way through the body. And I think it's because the bottom 3 are very centered with your physical self. And then the top ones are very centered with like the collective consciousness and more of what's going on around you as well as what's going on inside of you. So it's more in connection with the signal rather than the television. So your bottom chakra, that's I made myself laugh, sorry about that. But your root chakra, which is the bottom one, is red. And it's kind of, so it's just above the groin area, a good place to put it. I've got my hand there, but you probably can't see there. And then moving up is the sacral chakra, which is orange. And that's kind of just above, it's like 4 fingers above your belly button. And then you've got your solar plexus, which is kind of between your ribs. As your ribs start to part, that's where your solar plexus is. And we talked about your solar plexus being able to frisk people for information to see if they're scary or need help. The solar plexus is quite an incredible chakra. It's where we get the saying yellow-bellied coward, because it shines yellow and it tends to look for fear. So for people who are quite fearful, it's very obvious because that yellow is kind of there and people can, like we say, perceive it. Heart center is green with a hint of pink. Very nice. Throat chakra is a turquoise blue, and then you've got your third eye, and that's an almond-shaped turquoise, almond-shaped violet eye, and then you've got the crown going out here. Then you've got the 8th chakra somewhere over here that's not connected to your body, and it all gets rather complicated. So opening these chakras, or at least trying to, because your chakras will work on your psychology, but when you actually concentrate on each of the chakras and kind of like allow them to open or get a sense of them opening, now you can imagine it like petals of a flower opening or a light going on. And by doing this, we are connecting our intention and our curiosity to open our energy systems. And as we do that, we are automatically raising our vibration, expanding our vibration, expanding our aura, and getting ourselves to a point where if you've done this with your eyes closed, when you open your eyes, it's like you're living in a cartoon state. Colours are so much more vibrant, shadows are so much deeper. You get like a real sense of, woof, something's happened here. The world looks slightly different. And you may find that when you're walking around in life, you may notice what I call cartoon states. It's like that episode where Homer Simpson suddenly steps out of the cartoon and is in the normal world. It would be as if we had stepped into the land of a lot of yellow. So when we have that kind of, suddenly everything becomes very, very colourful in life, I usually think that that's my intuition is trying to talk to me, and my vibration is naturally raised by itself and I need to pay attention. Quite often happens to me in a park. It happens to me in natural spaces that are quite vibrant with life and colour anyway. And then I might find a bench and sit down and have a listen to what it is that's going on. So I'll give you an example of this. I was heading into work. I used to work, teach in a place called the College of Psychic Studies, which before I dropped the word psychic, and it was started by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It's in London. It's in South Kensington. Quite an interesting building, and the building was donated by people during the war who'd been trying to contact dead loved ones. Quite interesting. Anyway, so I was heading there, and there was a man sweeping the road. And he picked up the brush and kind of swung it around his head, narrowly missing my head, before he put it back into the dust cart. So I was like, whoa, okay, got away with that. And then as I reached the door, it was a very heavy, old Victorian door that even had kind of like a door shutting type thing on it. And I just missed the door. Literally, it clicked closed just as I was about to push it, and then you have to press a button, and then you have to wait because they have to let you in and they have to press a button. And so as these things were happening, I noticed I was in a cartoon state. And I thought, this is interesting. Now, normally I arrived at the college and I would turn my phone off instantly because nobody needs a ringing phone, and not when people are meditating. But this time I didn't. I put it onto vibrate because I just got the feeling that I might miss something, that something might go wrong. And interestingly enough, I had a very important phone call that I would have missed. So that's the kind of thing that a cartoon state can do. It suddenly makes you look at the world differently. So opening your chakras is another way of being able to kind of raise that frequency so that you can put your hand in water and feel the temperature of the water because your temperature has changed. So that's what I'm talking about. So you can have more feeling towards other people and more awakened consciousness. Now, unfortunately, you can't walk around with your chakras opened all the time. Just doesn't work like that. And the world would be kind of like a weirdy place. You'd be picking up too much. So you'd be uber hyper sensitive and it's a little bit too much. But if you want to do that every so often, if you've got a question that you want to ask, or say, for example, if you work in any of the healing arts and you want to get into that kind of state to be able to talk to clients, it's a really easy thing to do. But this is about getting into that. And when we're in that state, it's so much easier to connect with collective consciousness. And collective consciousness is useful for a number of things. What am I being sold? So when you're in the collective consciousness, you can tell when someone is lying because when you're in a lower frequency, you can't feel it. It might feel a little icky, but you can't feel it as much. When you're in a raised frequency, like when you're closer to love than fear, closer to love than, you can feel when something isn't coming from the intention of love. It's coming from the intention of something else. And that intention might be power or control. And that can show up as manipulation. It can show up as lying. It can show up as all sorts of things. This is really helpful when you kind of, you know, if you're at work and you're like, is this colleague stabbing me in the back? I don't know. Raising your frequency will make you feel the E that happens. And we're going to talk very much about the gut brain, which will really help you with this as well. So we're going to talk about the gut brain on another day. So having that gives you a sense when something feels off. So what I've done with the meditation is I'm talking you through how to use your feelings, so not opening the chakras, but how to use your feelings as well to become more in a love state. And there is, like, you know, you could say I'm in a state of depression, but you can also be in a state of love. So you can find yourself in a more expansive, more loving state, and then you can hear anything that is in contradiction and contrast to love, which means that you are more aware of what's going on in the world. Now, the other thing is when you're listening more from a place of love, you attract more love, you feel more love. And the other thing that happens is you can change the room, like the entire room. So we talked about this in terms of theatre. So when you're on stage, you can tell that you can change the emotional states of the vibration through of the audience through the collective consciousness. As someone who worked in theatre for 15 years as a stage manager, there were 3 types of actors. Love me, love me, love me. Find me, I feel lost and insecure, but please see me, give me loads of attention. And I love you. And when an I love you actor is on stage, even if they're playing a rotten character, there's something that they transmit into the audience, and that the audience find them mesmerizing, eye-catching, but also they are the wielder of energy in the audience. You get a whole cast like that. Wow, it's something else to see, you know. And so we know who those people are because we say that they have stage presence. And so when they have that level of stage presence, you can feel it, it's tangible. And in actual fact, you can usually feel it when they're off stage as well. So I had an incident with that with Alan Rickman. So I was on the phone, and this is in the times before mobile phones, and I was actually setting myself up with a date with another actor who's also now quite well known. The date never happened, by the way. And I could feel someone pushing into my back as I'm talking on the phone. I could feel, you know, when you can feel when someone's eyes are on you. But this was more than that. It was like, oh, okay. And I turn around and there's Alan Rickman. And I fell in love with him during Truly, Madly, Deeply. So this was kind of, and I was like, sorry, I'll be with you in a minute. And And he just raised one eyebrow as he does. And I could feel his presence, and I could feel, I mean, it was literally like my hand was going to put the phone down. And when I finally got off the phone, because this person was really crap at sort of organising dates, and when I finally got off the phone, he went, "Don't worry, I'll use the one backstage," and walked off. And he wasn't being horrible, he was just being amused. And it was amusing. But that was, again, that energy, that presence that people can have. And maybe you know about people in your own life like that. People who can change the vibration of a room. They can change the feeling of a room. And I think that definitely is something I would like to be. I love being on stage, because when you're on stage, you can change the vibration of an audience. It might be how you're using your voice, but mostly it's because for me, when I'm on stage, I'm resonating with love because I love the audience. And any of you who have stage fright, I would literally say to you, get yourself out of the way. Be there to heal the room. Neil Donald Walsh was talking about this last night, but be there to heal the room. Be there to transmit love. And you will find that the minute you stop worrying about what people think of you and start worrying about what you give, it's life-changing. And I would advise you to feel that, not just for being on stage, but also for in your everyday life. If you keep making a decision that I'm here to transcend love instead of here to get attention or love or anything like that. And that's hard to do because it has to come from a place of self-love. Because once you have a place of self-love, you don't really have the need of anybody else. Cool, huh? Because you're already giving yourself everything that you need. So you could have more rubber boundaries rather than solid boundaries. And it means that you can be so much more generous with your own energy in the collective consciousness, where you can just freely give love as your vibration all of the time. Now, I would also say that even when you're in a down place, you know, so this was asked me on a question last night on a call with a client. And she was saying, you know, how, when I'm in that moody funk, when I'm in a bad place, can I still be, how can I stay in a raised vibration? And I would say, you are here to feel all of the feels. So even when you are feeling upset or angry or frustrated or stressed out or anxious, if you can love the fact that you feel these feelings, and I know this is a tricky thing to do because when you're embedded in it, it's like me going, but there's rainbows, and you're like, oh, friggin' rainbows. But if you can thoroughly accept that it's okay to have these feelings, then you can love at the same time as feeling that, because the awareness can love while the feelings and the thoughts can be dark. The awareness can still love. The signal still loves. Your core is love. You can't stop love. You are love. You are just it. You are love. You don't need to find it. You just need to get rid of all the blocks that you've put in the way of you feeling it, which might be your fear blocks. So it's a little bit like being unhappy about being unhappy. That's twice the amount of unhappiness. If you can become happy about being unhappy, then that's a really good place to be. It doesn't stop the unhappiness, but it doesn't stop love either. So it isn't one or the other, because you are made of multiple parts. So your energy can be vibrating love. Everything can be vibrating love at the same time as you want to punch somebody very clearly in the face. Don't do that, by the way. It's illegal. So hopefully that makes some sense. Head over onto my website, beckywalsh.com. The blog post is called Intuition Class. And the meditation is 11 minutes and 11 seconds. And just do that today. That's all you got to do. Find some time, maybe in your lunch break, to expand your frequencies. And then I would be really interested if you wanted to come back at 5:30 or put any comments on what I'm going to upload on Instagram. Put any comments on what you thought, what it was like, but also come back at 5:30 and talk to me about it. Tonight at 7:30, I'm doing my stand-up comedy Intuition with personal development. That's going to be fun. Monday. doing a Clubhouse room on sex and intuition. So there's a few things to look forward to. But yeah, tonight we'll have a giggle at 7:30, but we'll be coming back here to finish the class at 5:30. So I hope and look forward to seeing you all then. And again, thank you. I'm seeing the same faces coming back every morning, and I really appreciate the fact that you're doing that and that you're here on the live, and that yeah, that you're taking your time to go through this little journey with me. Thank you ever so much. Right, great. I'll see you at 5:30. Have a good day. Bye.